Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues on November, good question, 24th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's calling to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools that I personally use in my own day-to-day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I use to guide just about every decision I make. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, and tonight we're going to be talking about, that's nice. I like it. Yep. Today we're going to be talking about believe in your finances. How do you go about doing that? And what does that actually entail? Well, we've started down an interesting path here, but before we get into it, I do desire to tip my hat to Storm. He is our primary moderator and hides in the background most of the time, making certain our technology stays working, and rest assured that's a challenge. Okay, he is also the primary moderator that makes certain that problem children are not in the room long enough to become problem children. And if you find yourself outside the room, odds are you didn't read the rules at the top of the chat or looked at the ones scrolling across the bottom. They're the same thing. But that said, even if you find yourself out today, as long as you come in and follow the rules the next time you come in, we don't hold it against you. This is intended to be a safe zone for everybody. Okay, and again, if you have questions, absolutely put them in the chat room in all caps so I can at least find them. Okay, now we have Mike Jones. You are in the room with the gold. How you doing, Mike? Glad you could join us. And we scroll down and we have Operation Shutdown. You are in with the silver. How's it going, Operation? And scroll down a little bit further, and what do we got? Nope, that's where it ends as far as this moment goes. But we'll see how that goes. Okay, now one of the things that we do have to realize when we are talking about finances, understand, contrary to what many people seem to have been taught, myself included, okay, money will not buy you happiness. Although, as one millionaire pointed out, it will afford you the opportunity to look for it in a lot more places. But let's be clear about one little detail. Happiness you'll find inside your heart. You won't find it in the bank account. Okay, and there's a lot of things around that, but we'll get to that as we go on. Now, the other thing to remember where it comes to finances, whether you're running a home or running a business, running a major intercontinental, mogul, doesn't matter. Money doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what kind of mood you're in. Doesn't matter who you're voting for. Doesn't matter who you're sleeping with. Doesn't matter who you pray to. Money doesn't care. Okay, but money does have a point. My personal outlook on, fairness is this. A dollar I don't understand why a dollar in one country is less valuable than a dollar in another. It's still an individual's time. And this is why off-worlders use the man hours worked to figure out how much you're getting paid. They don't actually use cash in outer space. Picture trying to move gold bullion or whatever in outer space in that kind of volume. Okay, now, yes, in local areas, i.e. all over the Orion Empire, you will find money, or more to the point, tokens, used in most of the establishments, but not in private income. Now, yes, I go down weird tracks on occasion. What I'm talking about, these are tools I've learned over the last 60 years of making some pretty stupid maneuvers. Okay, and you'll notice this little book Believe in your finances and follow your dreams. This one I wrote. The reason now it is available if you go to the link at the top of the chat room to buymeacoffee.com/innervoiceJ. You'll find every book that I've ever written. You'll find it available there, both in hard copy and in PDF. Okay. Now, I do my best to keep the prices low, and there's a reason for that. Okay. Number one, these books are small. Okay, they are very small. You don't require, in my opinion, you don't require a whole bunch of notes that tell you, oh, here's a bunch of people that were successful. Okay, here's stories of what somebody else did. This doesn't work all that well. Okay, and why regurgitate it? So what I did is I kept the books really small. Okay, if like most of them are 15 to 20 pages long. Understand we are talking about decades of experience. And the reason I've written these down, I'm no financial advisor. I simply have learned from the school of hard knocks. Okay. Now, who do we got? Oh, LA Moon is in the house. Now, LA, I welcome LA. LA is our primary in-stream moderators. She is there to make certain that if conversation stalls or if there are questions that aren't being asked, you can bet she's going to pop in and say something. She's also there to ensure that people in the chat room are behaving themselves, as it were, following the rules. Okay, and rest assured, I've asked my moderators to keep an eye on things so I don't have to worry about it too much. But more importantly, in a lot of ways, LA is also the primary moderator who keeps a very close eye on my own health. And that itself can be a bit of a challenge. Now, something to understand about the whole idea of believing in your finances. You don't have to take my word for what I'm telling you. All I'm telling you is if your finances are not doing what you feel they should be doing, it may be time to take a look at the way you're doing things, because maybe you're missing something. Lord knows I made a lot of mistakes on my journey to figure this out. Okay, now I did make a very big mistake in these, but what I'm doing is I'll finish this series and then I will carry on with more. But the first thing we take a look at, and in the book, I've broken it down very nicely and very simply in my eyes. Where is the actual start to it? I love my hands. They don't work well. But we're going to walk you through how to regain control over your finances using your money. And understand, money doesn't matter whether you've got an income from a support system, from a trust fund, from a job, from savings you put together, from the government, doesn't matter. Wherever the money's coming from, and I'm going to throw this out there, even if you are involved in what the government say are illegal operations, money doesn't care. It still operates the same way. Okay, so the first thing you got to deal with, you desire to get a look at and to get a handle on your income, you got to know what your income is. Okay, and this literally means assess how much money is coming in from all sources. Okay, and yes, I did say whether it's illicit or it's legal, money doesn't care. Money doesn't check the law books. Okay, so do a tally and literally write down and be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with you, doesn't matter if you lie to anybody else, although I will tell you, income tax or the IRS, don't lie to them. This is a bad idea. Okay, but you've got to be honest with yourself, and a very strong recommendation, whatever your bank account is looking like, share that information. If you've got a partner, whether it's a spouse, a common law girlfriend, common law boyfriend, Share the information with them. Absolutely. Secrets inside a relationship are a disaster waiting to happen. Okay, now, the first and foremost, figure out what your income is. That's the biggest thing you got to look at. Okay, the second thing you've got to do, because whatever money's coming in, it works out to this. If the money comes in, that's what you're working with. Now, you've been told, I'm sure, you got to have a budget to operate your house properly. Well, let me put it this way. The government, none of the governments I've ever looked at actually run a stable budget. Why not? What's missing? Well, I'll tell you what's missing. What's missing is you can only run a budget if you know how much money is coming in. Okay, it just doesn't work otherwise. So take a look at all of the income coming in. Whether it's, whether you're falling short or not, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Matter of fact, we should probably get to that now. If you're not if you don't have enough money coming in to cover your living expenses, you're going to have to do one or two things. And I recommend you find a way, and please stick to the legal methods. Okay, the cost of doing illegal business is not, in my opinion, worth it. Okay, but find a way, whether it's an extra part-time job, maybe you work from home, maybe you contract out and get a little bit of income. In my case, I'm starting to learn to market. Okay, Lord knows I spent tens of thousands of dollars on people claiming they knew how to market. Okay, or claiming they would market. Never did, in all fairness, but they were claiming it. So you figure out what your income looks like. Okay, now you've done that. Now take a look at how much output you have. And that means your rent, your utilities, food, entertainment, savings, utilities, the list goes on. Now, I could go through it one step at a time, and, the reality of it is this. There is a lot of things that would be wise to add to your list, because you've got to know what your income is and what your required output is. In doing this, you will know how much money you're working with. Kind of an important factor. Now, whether you're running a household or you're running a business, either way, the money works the same way. And this is why I've recommended so often, get your office, wherever you work on your finances, get it straightened out so that it is clutter-free. This will help you think more clearly. Once you figure out what all of your actual necessary outgoing expenses are, okay, and again, be honest with yourself. Something to really keep in mind. Many of you will have multiple subscriptions to whatever newfangled deal is out there. Ask yourself, you're paying $10 a month for something. Are you actually using it enough to warrant paying for it? Okay, now if you're using a chat program, okay, and you're utilizing it and they're charging you a fee for it, understand that you're using their system. They're not doing a thing for you in all likelihood. And myself, I would not even turn to the big chat room and the big chat programs and what have you, and pay for them to market either, for one reason. After thousands of dollars spent getting burned by people saying they would do it, I just don't do that anymore. Okay, I do have a contract that I am willing to deal with other people. And again, this boils down to knowing what your boundaries are. But you figure out what your necessary expenses are, and understand. Okay, I do agree with many people, having multiple credit cards is a good idea. Okay, my reasoning is a whole different one. We'll get to that in a little bit. But where it comes to your regular expenses in today's world, having one credit card that's active is a wise maneuver. Okay, it's almost essentially a necessity at this point. Okay, so take a look at that. Susan, how are you? Glad you could join us. And Susan, you are in with the bronze. When you take a look at a credit card, okay, and I've done this before, there are ways to generate an income with a credit card. Okay, and we'll cover that again at a future date. I've covered it before, so look back through the archives. You'll find it. Okay, but you take a look at your expenses. Now, that's the first thing you have to do. And the reason I say the first thing, there's no really particular order, but all of these things are necessary. Okay, once you've figured that out, now it's time to start figuring out how to utilize it. And here's the kicker. Okay, in my experience, the biggest mistake that most people make is money comes in, you go, I got to pay my rent, I got to pay my utilities, I got to pay this, that, and the other thing. Absolutely true. But the first thing you should be, in my opinion, that you should pay is you take 1% of whatever comes through the door, put that in your pocket. Okay, that is mad money. Okay, meaning that's the money you use to go out to get coffee. Okay, or you go out for lunch if you decide. But you work with mad money. This is money you spend on whatever you please. You don't worry about tracking it, because once you run out of money, you don't have it. And you put 1% in your long-term savings. I should have done this myself decades ago. Had I done it myself decades ago, I'd be sitting in way better shape. I didn't. Do yourself a favor. Learn from the stupid moves I've made. Okay, that's the whole idea here. Well, it's the second part of the idea, it turns out. Okay, intriguingly enough, the more I talk to you and I make notes for myself, I'm turning around and going, gee, that was a really good idea. Let's make that happen. If it turns out it's a bad idea, rest assured, I'll let you know. Okay, but you pay, and here's why you pay yourself first. By putting 1%, $1 out of every 100 that comes in, or 1 penny out of every dollar, if you will. The reason you do that is because it changes the feel of your income from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. And the difference in the feeling of that is like night and day. Don't take my word for it. Okay, just simply do your own research. If you haven't used this method before, get on it and give it a shot, especially if you're not content with the way your finances are looking right now. Okay, now the important factor from your end is you're the one that's going to have to be doing the work. Okay, now the other thing you look at, once you've got that money aside, now do not make the mistake of waiting until the bill due date. I gave an idea, as a matter of fact, it might even be listed in the current edition of Believe in Your Finances. I suggest if your bill is due on the 15th, pay it on the 7th. Pay it a week beforehand. I have since discovered, at least for me, okay, we should say pay it a week beforehand at the latest. The money you'll save, that you'll make, leaving the money in your bank for a week, is nothing compared to the stress relief of knowing that bill is paid off completely. Okay, this is the critical factor. Get your bills paid. Priority 1 bill, your own mad money. It won't do any appreciable damage to your spending capacity or to your bill paying capacity. We're talking $1 out of every 100. Okay. Bill number 2, get your lodging. get your lodging paid, whether that is your rent, your lease, maybe it's maybe it's a business property that you've got. Get the rent paid. Okay, you don't pay the rent whether your utilities are paid up or not. You're not going to be in that house. Third priority is get your power paid. I've literally talked to people that have gone, look, I'm behind in most of my utilities. I'm buying, and they're threatening to cut my cable and my power off. I got to get my cable cut and paid because I can't live without my cable. People, you don't have power. It doesn't matter whether your cable is paid. You're not going to have cable either. So get your power paid. Okay? If you happen to live in a place where you got to pay for your water, make sure that one gets paid as well. Okay? Because I will tell you, if you don't get it paid, you're not going to have a fun day. Then you start paying the rest of the necessary bills. Okay? And absolutely, there are 3 categories of bills that you have to take a look at. Let's just make sure. Yes, I am going. This is literally the book I'm working that I wrote. And the reason I recommend it is very simple. And of course, some of you, well, you wrote it. Of course, you're going to recommend it. If I wrote garbage, well, you are right. I wouldn't be recommending it. But the fact of the matter is, I kept the book small, as in its actual size, because it makes it easy to carry with you if you choose to. Each book, I actually left an empty page for making notes. Some people, as a matter of fact, a lot of people remember things a lot more clearly if they happen to have written them. If they happen to have physically written them down. So you get all your bills listed. This is absolutely necessary. Whether we are talking a current, whether we're talking current utility or a credit, a past credit debt. Okay, doesn't matter. Get them all listed. Okay. Now, once you've got them all listed, and again, be brutally honest with yourself, and bear in mind, you'll probably come across some books or some bills that you forgot about on the first pass. Do not be afraid to add to them. Okay. Now, personally, I use a tabletop calendar. Okay. There is a reason for that. I'm a dinosaur. Okay. This will give you an idea. This is the tabletop calendar I use. Okay. And what I strongly recommend you do is as soon as you get a bill, mark down when it is due and literally get it paid as quickly as you can. Because as soon as you get it paid, you don't have to worry about that bill being adding up or being cut off. Okay. Now, I just got him, my cell phone bill just came in today. So as soon as I get another chunk of money in, okay, which I'll have before the end of the month, my bill isn't due until the middle of December. You can bet your bottom dollar if I've got the money to pay for it before the end of November, I'll be paying it. Then I don't have to worry about it. Okay, my dad used to say, take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. Okay, and this is very much the case. And again, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay, and for those of you that are really curious and figure, oh, he's showing hidden information, take a good look. You can blow it up, and what you'll find on here is literally when certain bills are due, or when I've got appointments, or my sleep pattern. You'll even find out how much I weigh week to week. If that's the information you're really interested in, have a happy. Okay, I'd rather ask. But where it comes to your finances are going to do what you tell them to do. Okay, you desire your debt load to go down, pay the bill. Odd idea. Okay, but pay it as soon as you can so you don't get sidetracked. One of my claims to fame is I can get sidetracked really quickly. Okay, but once you've got the whole list, now you break the list into 3 different categories. Living expenses. Okay, these include things like your rent, your utilities, your food, your savings, your insurance. Do not forget your insurance. This is a bad thing to overlook. Okay, one credit card. Your pick which one. Okay, don't worry about the interest rate on it. Although I strongly recommend when it comes to credit cards, make sure that you can get a credit card with no annual fee or no monthly fee. Take your pick. Okay, a no fee credit card is useful. One that costs you a fee is throwing money out the window. And therefore, unless you have to have one, like with a secured credit card, you'll have different issues. Okay, but the sooner you can get onto a no fee credit card, the better off you are. Okay, so as the money comes in, get your own personal mad money and savings paid, pay your rent, pay your power and your water, and then start paying the rest of the bills. Do not keep the money. If you owe money, even if it's a current bill, you're better off, in my experience, paying the bill off. Okay, instead of sitting there waiting, instead of going, I'm going to keep my money for an extra week. This doesn't make you a lot of money unless you happen to be a billionaire. And even with billionaires, I strongly recommend you pay off your bills as soon as they come in. Okay, you will be much more relaxed. And again, don't take my word for it. Give it a shot if you haven't done it already. Okay, now you split it into your living expenses. Then you look at the interest accruing debts. This means the ones that are charging extra interest. Your credit cards, your loans, your leases, anything that charges interest. You put those in one bulk group. Okay, because those are the first bills that we target. The third group is the old debts that you have that are not interest accruing. Maybe somebody you borrow money from said, don't worry about the bill. Okay, don't worry about the loan, just keep it. Now, it's up to you what you do. I have a tendency of hanging on to that bill and going, I still owe that person X number of dollars. Okay, but it's up to you what you do with it. But you put those in the third group. So as the money comes in, pay your living expenses first. Okay, and yes, we are going to start looking at other things as we go through finances here. And while I'm talking to you about it, I'm making the immediate changes in my life to ensure I get my feet on the ground as well. But the second group is your interest accruing debts. Okay, you work on those. But in order to work on those, target the smallest, monetarily speaking, interest accruing debt. Now this means if you've got a credit card that you owe $1,000 on and you've got a loan that you owe $5,000 on, regardless of the interest rate, because you're paying minimums anyway, but regardless of the interest rate, pay off the $1,000 loan for a credit card first. The reason for this is because mentally speaking, it is far better to pay off, to have only one big debt as compared to several little ones. And yes, that said, if you've got a bunch of little ones, okay, even if it's a cash advance to do it, I do strongly, and this is what I do, I strongly recommend you take your credit card and get them all composited. Do not get rid of the credit cards. And I know people will tell you if you've got credit card, you've got temptation, you'll get back into debt. You only get back into debt if you let yourself do it. Now, here's a neat little tip for those of you that desire to hang on to an extra credit card. You're trying to pay it off, and yet you have this neat little problem. You don't want to get rid of it. Okay, So here's a trick I learned from a client decades back. If you've got a credit card you really desire to pay off, take the credit card, take 2 pieces of cardboard, okay, put the credit card between the 2 pieces of cardboard, slip all of it into a airtight bag, okay, into a Ziploc bag, into a freezer bag, okay. Then you take a gallon bucket of ice cream, like a gallon bucket from an ice cream bucket or what have you, okay. And I recommend if you're doing this, put a couple of rocks in that same bag. Remember, what you're doing is putting a piece of cardboard down, putting a credit card on top of it. Make sure the cardboard covers all the credit card. Put another piece of cardboard on. Now, this can be simply a cereal box piece of cardboard. Okay, put a couple of rocks in it, seal it up, set the whole thing in a bucket. Okay, the rocks are to keep it weighted down, because what you're going to do is you fill that bucket with water so the bag is completely submerged and set the whole thing in the freezer. You will not be able to use your credit card. Okay, there will be no impulse buying at all. Okay, so once you do that, because here's what happens. You have that extra credit card, maybe you got 2 or 3. At one point, I had 13 credit cards. Bad idea, I didn't know what I was doing with them. I learned the hard way. Do yourself a favor. Learn from me. Okay, learn from the stupid moves I made. Much better option if you ask me. Okay, of course, I made the mistakes and didn't know better. Exactly, LA. LA is just saying, if you put the cardboard around the credit card, and I never thought of this personally, I was thinking it stops it from being folded. But it also protects the magnetic strip on your credit card. Okay, but it saves you the hassle of accidentally spending it on impulse. Or spending it on impulse, never mind the accident. Okay, but you get this idea, oh, I really want to use this credit card. Oh, but it's frozen in a solid block of ice. Now, here's the kicker to it. You desire to thaw it out. Okay, take it out. Do not accelerate the thawing process. You leave it on the counter probably for 3 or 4 days. By then, the impulse thing is gone. Okay, but now you've got your credit card back, and it hasn't been stolen. It hasn't been lost. And if you lose it in your freezer, eventually you'll find it. Okay, but this is why you put it in a gallon bucket. Also, the gallon bucket means you got enough water. It's going to take a while to thaw out. Again, protecting you from making the same dumb mistakes I did. Okay, now, I'm just going through these one step at a time. Now, this particular book, by the way, is a mind-blowing 23 pages long. Okay, but the reason I wrote it was so that when you're ready to change your finances, and when you're ready to control your finances with your money and your effort, this book works as a really good crib note for you. Okay, it's just a thought. Now, maybe all of these tools won't work for you, but I will tell you, if you put your credit card in a bucket of water and freeze it, putting in the mic to thaw it out, this is just a disaster. You will destroy the card in all likelihood, not to mention blowing it up. I don't know about you, I've thawed out ice in the microwave, and it has a tendency of popping. But the neat little thing about finances is this. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you've got. Money doesn't care. It is simply going to behave as money does. Now, I will tell you, most of you have been told the same thing. If you're having trouble making ends meet, cut back, cut back, cut back. This is a great idea, but there's only so far you can cut back. Okay, certain bills are going to be there and they're not going to get reduced for you. Okay, not in all likelihood. Okay, what you'll find is a bill of things like your rent, okay, your rent, your utilities, probably going to stay the same way. Okay, they don't go away. Get them paid, because the sooner you pay them, the less you have to worry about, are they paid for this month? And this is why I say keep tabs on them on your calendar. Okay. Now, whether your calendar is a tabletop calendar or a notepad on a phone, your call how you do it. Okay. I do it on tabletop because then I don't forget about it. Okay, I can take a look at it and glance at my bill, and go, oh, there's the bill. I got to get it paid. Okay, but when I talk about believe in your finances, understand one little detail: your finances don't care, but you have to develop the. It is recommended you come up with the idea you can with your income, given that your income is over what your outlay is, you can get ahead. Now, there's a couple other tricks that go hand in hand with this. Take a look at where your bill is, where your money is. Now, the beginning of this month, the beginning of November, I took a look at what my account balance was. Let's see if I've got it still open. Go right back to the beginning. On November 1st, my bank balance in my primary account was a staggering $364. Now, for me to know I'm doing things right, on December 1st, I've got to have at least $364.38 in my account. I will have that. Okay. What it fluctuates throughout the month doesn't matter. It's that starting point that will matter. You always make sure, and I don't say always very often, but you always make certain that your new balance is higher than the balance at the beginning of the last month. This will show you a climbing balance. It will not be quick. Okay, in all likelihood, it won't be. But let's say you get a sudden windfall and you get an extra couple of $100. So now, like, let's just assume for a moment, I was at 364.37 at the beginning of November. And I get to the beginning of December. And let's say I ended up with an extra $300. So the beginning of December says I've got $630 in the bank. That's my new cutoff. Okay, that is the new level that I target for the beginning of January. By doing that, you will find your bank account will climb. Okay, but you've got to believe this is possible and understand self-discipline is the way it's going to work. Yes, sometimes it will take the input of somebody else. Absolutely. Get somebody to help you stay focused. Have you spent more money than that? If you're getting to that point, do not justify dropping yourself below it. Okay, I make these mistakes, and this is why, and they are stupid moves. I know better and do it anyway. Like I said, I'm not perfect by any functional stretch. Okay, so what I am looking at this point is take a look at it and go, okay, what are we doing from here? How do we make this work? And the trick to it is this. Okay, you turn around and you go, okay, what am I doing and how am I going to make it happen? You're the one that's going to have to put the effort in. Absolutely, it may require talking to somebody else to get your hands on it and to get your feet on the ground. Now, let me ask you this. Do you actually know how to set up a tracking system to watch what your money does? I strongly recommend you figure it out. Either, if you know it yourself, do it. I use an Excel spreadsheet. Any spreadsheet will do. I mean, for crying in a water bucket. I used to do it on paper, on loose leaf paper, to keep tabs on what my money was doing. It literally boils down to what in accounting they call a three-column ledger, meaning how much money comes in, how much money goes out, and what your running balance is. That's all you require to get ahead. It does not require some fancy accounting program. Okay, it requires dedication and persistence. The neat part about it is as long as your account is climbing one penny at a time, it's still climbing. If you get a windfall that brings you up a few $100s, okay, give yourself a little leeway. I'm not saying you should stop moving everything. LA goes, I found that one person handling the checkbook and bills makes sure an accidental purchase doesn't happen and send me into a spiral. And for many people, LA, that works like a charm. Okay, the other method I found works. Okay, and this is the one, like having only one person handling the bills. Okay, absolutely works because you ensure the bills get paid. I think I may have overlooked that. When we're talking about putting money in your account with 1% in your account for mad money, if you have a common law or an actual married partner, make certain every check, even if whether it comes from them or comes from you, 1% goes into each of your mad money accounts and 1% goes into your savings account. This is critical. Okay, it is absolutely critical to make certain that you've got that money to goof off with. I will tell you, people tell me all the time, oh man, money doesn't matter. You got to get your bills paid. You do. But the drawback of not having free money to spend is you will spend more money trying to convince yourself you're happy than you ever do if you're already content. The other thing I found is this. If I have money sitting in my bank, even I know the bills not, because I was doing it one thought at a time. I was doing it where I go, okay, bill's not due to the 15th. I'll wait until the 8th to pay it. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work. So I came to the conclusion, not a good move. As soon as the bill comes in, I clear it. Yeah, LA goes, exactly. I actually budget my monies into the bills. He needs gas and sundries. Absolutely. These are things that you got to remember. It's very much like when you're organizing your time. You got to make certain that you have time set aside so you can actually sleep, because it's the one thing that most people overlook. Okay, but as long as your account is climbing, you will find things start looking much better. It'll take some time. My suspicion is, you think about it. If all you've got is an extra couple $100 that shows up on a monthly basis, your bank account is not going to reach a balance of $1,000 in a matter of days. It's going to end up taking you a number of months to climb. Okay, you think about it. If you get an extra $300 a month. Think about it. That means it's going to take 3 months to get that. If you don't spend it, you're looking at 3 months to get $1,000 balance. Okay, now here's the kicker. As the bank account climbs, sometimes a shock will come in. Okay, and you'll have to buy something because a household emergency or a family emergency pops up. Okay, remember, an emergency is not, I want to go for dinner. Okay, I am talking your car breaks down, somebody ends up in a hospital, a major appliance collapses. You may have to dip into that money that you put aside, that you've been building, and cut back. But when that happens, your active bank account, it drops below that level. Do not spend any more until your balance comes back up to that last minimum balance. Okay, one of the neatest things, yeah, and LA is right. She goes, man, keeping the finances stable does make for a happier spouse and fewer money fights. Here's the other thing, and this is the biggest mistake, in my opinion, my parents made, and many of yours made the same mistake. If you've got kids, if they're at least, I say at least 5 years old, some maybe younger, okay, start them as young as you can get away with. Include them in discussions of what household finances are going through. Now, some of you are going to say it's too much stress for them. I'm telling you from practical experience, had my parents done that, I would not have made the same dense moves that I did, because I'd have understood what was going on. Include your family in discussions on why money is being spent the way it is. If you do this, you won't have as big of a problem when the kid says, oh, can we get this? And you're going to look at them and go, we can't afford it. This is why, by including them in the conversation, they get a firsthand understanding of what household finances are doing. They get to see why you can't afford it. And yet they get to see why all of a sudden, hey, look, we managed to get this done. Okay, we managed to get this money put aside, so now we can go on that holiday. And yes, holidays are another issue altogether. Remember I mentioned a while ago, have a savings account put aside. That savings account is literally, now you can do it in a lot of ways, but one of the biggest things for a savings account is so that you can put money aside over time to have a holiday. Okay, very important little factor. The thing is, by including the family in your financial calculations and your day-to-day financial expenses, what you do, as LA pointed out, is you cut down on money fights. You also cut down on the stress level of trying to explain to the kids, or your spouse for that matter, why you cannot afford to do that. Now, here's the thing, and this was a mistake I made. It was 100% my shortfall. With my first wife, if she knew how much money I had in the account, that we had in the account, and she said, can we buy this? I'd look at her and go, yeah, no problem. We can afford it. Okay, bad idea. And this is why I called it my fault. Because if she didn't know how much money was in our account, and she asked if we could afford to do something, even if I knew we had the money, I found it easier to say, no, we can't afford it. We don't have the money. That was a shortfall on my end, not on hers. Okay, but, we talk about teaching our kids how to handle the real world when you get out there. If you don't teach them how to handle finances, I will tell you, they're going to make the same mistakes, and some worse than yours, that you made. This is just the reality behind it. Okay, it's a pain in the neck, but it's something that is imperative you take into consideration. Now, one of the other neat things about finances, the reason I say believe in them, is because you don't have to take my word for it. Take a look at your own outlook. If you've got money in the bank and you know your rent is paid, are you not a little more relaxed? Are you not more at ease with things? If somebody comes in and says, look, can we do this? Are you not happier and more relaxed if you've got the money to go out for dinner? Now, just today, my wife and I were talking about it, and we are cutting our eating out down to once a week. We've been eating out way too much. A lot of that has been caused, quite literally, and yes, it's an excuse. I don't like standing up to cook. I don't like cooking to start with. So it's easier to go out and get somebody else to do it. It's also a whole pile more expensive. So my wife and I discussed it today, and effective immediately, we are down to one meal out a week. And that's whether it's a meal out or food in. One a week. That's it. Now, granted, we did not put a cap on how much money we would spend on said outing. Okay. But the trick to remember is this. When if you're going out and you have leftovers, bring them home. Hey, to tell you this, guys, I grew up on leftovers. Make sure they're stored properly. I will tell you, I've made some pretty dense moves where it comes to storing food. Okay. Make sure it's stored properly, frozen, make certain it gets in the fridge, whatever you do. Okay. You'll find things work a lot more readily. This is just the reality behind it. But if you don't do this, you're asking for a complication. Okay. It's just the reality behind it. Here we are. LA goes, I was able to use the allowance method to teach money to my child, and I broke it down as though he actually had a wage. He was 8. He understood his math much better. Absolutely, and this is, again, one of those things that corroborates all things are connected. Okay. Yeah, LA goes, remake leftovers into something else. Like I literally will I just bought a chicken today. In Kelowna here where I am, it's cheaper to buy a fully cooked roast chicken and break it into smaller parts than it is to buy a fresh chicken and cook it myself. Also, it's edible. Added bonus. Okay, but I will tell you, again, finance is another thing, and we're going to get into this way more next week. But one of the other things is literally planning meals. So you're buying to fill a menu. Okay, it will save you a staggering amount of money, and we'll discuss that next week. Okay, but understand, you treat your finances with respect, so as though you know they're going to climb, and that literally boils down to look at your bank account, go, okay, there's my bank account, and now I'm going to make it climb. And we are down to 8 minutes, I have just been informed. Oh, something else. You're adding a minimum of 1 penny to your bank account every month to make sure it climbs. Your credit card, make sure you are paying off more than you're spending, assuming you have a balance at all. If you don't have a balance, pay the whole thing off to a zero balance. This is critical. Okay, because by dropping your balance on your credit card and raising the money in your savings account, you will find your finances take on a whole new vision of prosperity and success. This is critical. Now, let me just double check here before I run out of time. There we are. Nope, that's wrong. That's the one I want. We are on there. Now, next week, on next Monday, we're going to be looking at the concept of believe in your business. Now, understand, a family home and a business, no matter the size of business, they're still the same principles. Okay, so today we're looking at finances and how to make those work properly. Okay, again, if you didn't make notes, 2 ideas. 1, go back and listen to this all over again, make notes yourself, or go to buymeacoffee.com/innervoicej and pick up a copy, either the hard copy, in which case I will sign it and ship it to you. I've got them in stock. Okay. Or you can buy the PDF version. Okay. That said, if you desire some one-on-one guidance, it also tells you how to get a hold of me there. Okay. So all in all, this is the important factor. You've got to be the one in control of your finances. Yes, getting somebody else to watch over them or to back you up. Blue, how you doing? Glad you could join us. If you may need somebody to back you up to help you go, no, I don't desire, I've got to stay on hand. Okay. Now, that said, we're down to the 5-minute mark. So I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us today. Really do appreciate it. And I do hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to be dealing with coping with holiday stress. Okay, different techniques. Because I'll tell you, we're in that season. Okay, now I want to say thank you. I desire to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us today. Really appreciate your support. Hope to see you again in the very near future. Until then, do take care of yourselves. Hold that thought. We will be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Pacific. Okay, so until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.